Good morning, welcome back to another video, and today is another day of the Zero to Gold Cap Challenge. Now just stick around and enjoy the video. Okay, so what I've been actually doing for yesterday is obviously doing my usual stuff and all of that jazz, but mainly I've been focusing on getting hold of the Silas Orb of Transmutation. So if we pull this up right now, the Silas Orb, or well, Silas Sphere of Transmutation. Now, this is a item that in which is a tool of the trade for alchemists. Now, this gives you additional procs and all that stuff for when you're actually using it, and is relatively really helpful for when you're actually trying to do gold making, and also just in general creating like flasks and transmutations and giving you extra additional procs when coming into this. Now, firstly, I didn't actually know how to get a hold of any of this type of stuff, but after a load of digging, I've managed to figure out how to create the Silas Sphere. This is going to require us to get one purposefully potent potion. Now, this one can be gotten hold of in Waycrest Manor, and that can be on any difficulty, so I went in as normal because I wanted to get it done as fast as possible. And all you had to do was kill the Thistle Acolytes. Now, the Thistle Acolyte, a trash mob which is within the actual Waycrest Manor, and it has a chance of dropping the purposefully potent potion. Now, this does have a chance of dropping multiple of these, but I only got one in one run, and I tended to actually get a hold of them pretty much all of these different types of items, just as a side note, pretty much every time I went into one of the specific dungeons. So what you're going to be wanting to do is queue up for the Waycrest Manor in order to get hold of that. Which brings us on to our next one, which is the Sphere of Sangarum. That one drops from a boss in Atoll Dazar. Now, this one is exactly the same as the Waycrest Manor one, can be done on any difficulty. And basically all you have to do is kill Priestess Alunza, and she will drop the sphere for you in order to get a hold of. This is more or less a lot of dungeon running and all of that jazz, so be prepared for waiting in the queue for a little bit. So what I was doing is just going over doing my world quests while I was waiting for them to pop. Now, aside from all of that, the other thing that we needed to get a hold of is the extremely precise vial. Now, this one can drop multiple times throughout a specific dungeon called the Mother Lode. You all know what the Mother Lode is, so what you're going to need to do is queue for the Mother Lode. Now, this one actually drops from trash mobs, which are the Venture Co. Alchemists and the Venture Co. Masterminds. This one does not drop off of a boss and can drop from all of those Venture Co. Masterminds and Alchemists respectively. This means that you have a higher chance of getting a hold of this because I got 4 in one run, and I'm pretty darn happy about all of that, just 4 of these precise vials. Now, aside from all of that, the next thing that we would be wanting to get a hold of is the Silas Sphere of for the Silas Sphere is the Slide Rogues Decanter going into Tol de Gore, and what you're going to be wanting to do is take out the boss Jess Howlis. Now, that boss has a chance of dropping the decanter for you, and pretty much as long as you're paying attention when it comes to the boss, you're not going to die. It's pretty damn dead simple, and if you do it on normal, you're never going to die unless you're completely bad at the game. Aside from that, this one dropped almost immediately for me once we killed the boss, and that is the same for the Sphere of Sangarum. Now, those are all the dungeons that you're going to be wanting to queue for, is by doing the Waycrest Manor, Atoll Dazar, the Mother Lode, and Tol de Gore. Once you've done all 4 of those dungeons, you should have all of those different types of potions and materials for the Silas Sphere. Now, moving on to the other things that you're actually going to need is 50 anchorweed. I would recommend actually just buying this off the auction house, as 50 anchorweed doesn't cost you all that much gold to actually do. But if you're wanting to farm this up, I would recommend using the Visual Hill Farm, which the route is located in Tiragard Sound and is accessible using the Worth It add-on. Now, aside from that, the other thing of note that you're going to be wanting to get a hold of is Expulsum. We all know how to get a hold of Expulsum. What I would primarily suggest you do is just create about 50 to 100 Tide Spray linen braces and scrap them on your alchemist. If you failing that you do not have any tailor in order to craft any of those things, you could also create the braces for blacksmithing and leatherworking respectively to do this as well. But aside from that, if you do not have any of those professions and you don't have any other way of getting a hold of Expulsum, armor world quests and then scrapping those for Expulsum, and you should be able to get a hold of some Expulsum moving forward. Now, the last thing on our list is the Mystical Cauldron. Now, this one is a bind on account item, and this requires you to... This one will cost you the most amount of gold in order to do. Now, what you're going to be wanting to do with the Mystical Cauldron for our Silas Sphere is by having 4 flasks of Endless Fathoms, 4 flasks of the Currents, 4 flasks of the Undertow, and 4 flasks of Vast Horizon. These are not the greater flasks, however. The only ones you need is the standard ones, not the greater ones. So before you go ahead and make the greater ones, you just need the basic ones that don't say greater. Aside from that, you need 5 more Expulsum, as we've just covered how to get a hold of the Expulsum. It's pretty dead simple if you've got a crafter. If you do not, then obviously do your armor world quests and you should have enough Expulsum. You need 15 Expulsum in all to create your Silas Sphere. Now is the last and tricky one, which I am still on, and that is the Hydro Core. The Hydro Core can drop at 100% drop chance from any Mythic Plus dungeon, but if you do not do Mythic Plus like myself, then it has a chance of dropping from any Heroic dungeon. But just bear in mind that when you're doing the Heroic dungeons, it's not 100% guarantee that you will get hold of a Hydro Core. Basically, it will drop a Tidal Core and then you can pretty much turn that into a Hydro Core. So what you can do is use your Aqueous Dilution, which is using 1 Tidal Core from one of your Mythic or Heroic dungeons, and using distilled water from a vendor, you can turn that into a Hydro Core for yourself in order to create your Silas Sphere. Now that is pretty much what I've been doing for the rest of the day. For yesterday, I've been banging out Heroic dungeons like crazy because I do not do Mythic Plus. I kind of wish I did. But if you do want to actually do a bit of Mythic Plus, then all you have to do is press I to get into your dungeon and raids, go into pre-made groups and dungeons. Now all you have to really do is to make sure that you are going to be doing this is just type in Mythic and you should see if you can get a hold, if you can join any of the groups. Now personally, if you do Mythic, you shouldn't have a problem getting a hold of these. I personally do not, but as a DPS on this character, most of those slots are filled pretty damn fast. So I'm going to have to resort into doing the Heroic dungeons in order to get a hold of my Tidal Core, in order to turn it into a Hydro Core, to create my Mystical Cauldron, in order to create the last thing that I need for my Sphere of Transmutation. Aside from that, guys, that is pretty much what we've been up to. I've just been grinding out world quest after world quest, doing my standard stuff to get our Silas Orb, while at the same time using Corthana to get her rep up. She's only got a little bit left to go with the Waveblade and a Cohen until she is revered, and then we'll be focusing mainly on the Mechagon stuff because that'll be the last thing we need for our flying. And then once we've got the orb and the flying, we can then start pulling in some mass amounts of gold. So aside from that, guys, let's get into the gold for the day. So the gold for the day, and I'm pretty certain it's not going to be an awful lot, is 43,929 gold. That is because I did not actually get around to actually doing any of my daily crafts. So obviously the gold's a little bit less for the day. We have spent about 10,000 gold from yesterday in order to get a hold of all of our bits for our Silas orb. But aside from that, the other things of note that we've sold is deep sea bags. We've sold all of them. And then we've also sold a stack of 580 maroon ink for 33,575 gold. And along with that, 3 potions of treasure finding for 1,264 gold. So the maroon ink's done us a real solid right there. Aside from that, guys, that is pretty much what everything of note, because the mass majority is that maroon ink. So let's pull in 43,000, which should bring us up to 543,000 gold overall. So pretty damn happy on the way things are going right there. To be honest, it's doing quite well. We're actually pulling in a decent amount of gold, and it's just a case of doing our objectives in order to increase our gold per day. Obviously, at the moment, it's a bit hit or miss, but that's like the same with everything. You're going to have lull days, and I'm quite glad that the lull days are becoming much more profitable than when we first started. If you remember, lull days for us was only a couple of thousand gold when we first started. Now a lull day is like in the tens of thousands of gold for a lull day for us. So I'm kind of happy on the way things are going, even if I did not even do any of my crafting for the day. I'm solely focused on getting my Earwind staff now and my sphere of transmutation while getting my flying, because I know I can boost the gold up like a considerable amount once I've got those 2 things. So aside from that, guys, that is pretty much all I have to say for the day. Have an awesome rest of the day, and I shall see you in the next video, which will be tomorrow.